Hello. Welcome, everybody, to episode 15 of The Burning Wheel. I'm super excited to be back and to have all of you here with me. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Doing good? I'm glad
You'll
to hear
notice I don't sound quite as zombie.
that. You sound like a human being.
You do.
As I did 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
But in the meantime, Jess got what I had, and so
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's the thing that tends to happen. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, we were like trapped in a house in a blizzard together in a house of germs.
Oh, boy. That's a house of
That's
germs.
a bad place to be.
Human body.
I think I saw that Rob Zombie movie.
Fickle thing.
So before we get started, I wanted to both call myself out for a really, really terrible pun that I thought you had made on purpose, Colin, but it ends up you were just having a conversation that I ruined.
Just trying to speak.
Yeah. So they were talking, what were you talking about? Cereal.
He doesn't even remember. He
Cereal.
doesn't.
I just remember the terrible pun. You're talking about cereal. So, if you're a person who uses Twitter, you know that if you're friends with people on Twitter, you see them having conversations about stuff. And they were talking about cereal. And
And if you're
Austin-
Adam, you just assume that those friends are always making puns.
yeah,
That's what you would do.
Austin made a remark about a recent episode of Serial, which I agree with you, Austin, was a good episode.
It's a good episode.
And could very easily stand on its own as like a unit. And then, Colin, how did you phrase it? You said something about... Go ahead
said-
and recount that for
Which,
us, Colin.
there's nothing wrong with this. It's a perfectly normal sentence. I said I had trouble getting engaged with cereal.
You specifically said you were having trouble getting engaged this season, to which I replied, really? It was perfect. It was so good. I was almost certain you were making an excellent pun, but just you made me do it, and I had to make... Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ruined your conversation.
Yeah, well, I was so distraught over the pun that we just decided to call the whole thing off.
Yeah.
And we're no longer engaged anyway, so thanks, Adam.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
It happens more often than you'd think.
Puns they tear us apart. You know, it's really the human story.
Well, that was what that Joy Division song was about, right?
Puns will tear us apart.
Puns will tear us
It was the original. It just wasn't as serious. They just like, scrap that, try some, let's find something else. So...
Oh my god.
What's sellout? Someone told them, "Oh, make this a love song; it'll sell better."
Oh yeah, it's a commercial.
not a lot of like goth songs about puns, really, or anything other than like children's songs about puns. And even then, it's an underutilized genre. So what's everybody been up to? Playing video games, going to movies, doing things, absorbing media.
I was playing some video games.
I heard that.
What were you
Pretty
playing?
good. I played XCOM: The Long War on stream and had people like fill my ranks so that I could send them off to die,
Nice.
which was very fun. It was super fun, and like my level of like emotional engagement with the game went way up. Also, there was this like incredibly protracted pun around one character named Gen getting the nickname the General, but spelled in
I
them
get it.
like
That's nice.
just
Yeah.
endless Gen puns. There were like honestly 2 hours of Gen puns.
Nice.
Adam would have been proud.
I am from a distance over here, trying to not make them right now.
And then I achieved all of my Path of Exile goals. Finally.
Sometimes listening to you talk about Path of Exile, it sounds like a person talking about like their like thesis or something. They're like, look, I really got to put some hours in on Path of Exile tonight. So
You know, it's an undertaking.
that's
not
a
a
good
game.
that's a good way to put it.
Undertaking.
It's an undertaking. Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying. You've played XCOM prior to like Long War, right?
Yeah. So this is like a nice refreshing of it. And it was fun to do it as like a precursor to like people downloading XCOM 2 as I was like finishing up the stream and stuff. So I got to kind of roll from one into the other.
Yeah, I think I'll probably play XCOM 2, but I got to take a break first because Firewatch is coming out.
It is. It's
Yeah.
really good.
yeah.
I cannot
Heads up.
fucking wait. Yeah, every time I talk about it, there's one person in the like audience or on Twitter who's like, "Oh my god, Firewatch!" And there's like 99 people who are like, "What is
What is
that?"
Firewatch?
I've been watching their progress for like a year, and their art is so dope, and I can't
It's-
wait.
Really good. It's really good. So I have an interview coming up on giantbomb.com on Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll go up with Sean Vanneman, who's the lead designer on it, and with
Sweet.
Rich Sommer, who is the voice actor of the main character, formerly played Harry Crane on Mad Men. It was a
right.
really good interview.
Wow.
Those guys are
I didn't
fantastic.
realize that.
Yeah, they're fantastic, and we talk about everything from like what the casting stuff was like for that role to like what it was like playing a character who had different variations like that to like board games. It turns out that that Rich Sommer is this huge.
Oh yeah,
board
he's
game
a big board game dork. That's right. I
Yes.
forgot about that.
and
That's
like that
awesome.
was he was so enthusiastic and passionate. It was very good. It was very
Aw.
good.
It's like the opposite of most stories you hear about voice actors getting into
Yeah.
video games. They're like, I don't even like video games. I'm looking
Yeah.
at fucking Charles Dance. They're like, oh yeah, video games. Ah. You know, fucking
Not real.
Malcolm
Not
McDowell
real
their way
theater.
through that shit. But it's nice. It's nice when someone's like, no, seriously, games are rad. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I played a lot of. Did you play The Long Dark? Austin, did you play that game?
I really need to. I was literally thinking about that today in relation to Firewatch. Like I have it, and I just never got around to it. And
It's
really,
not, I mean, it's not technically done yet. I don't think. I
Right,
think it's
that's
still
why
in
I've been
access,
avoiding
so
it,
you
kind
can,
of.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I see some parallels. I'm curious to see how those go.
Mhm.
Yeah, it looks like a fantastic game. So that's coming out next week. So I'm gonna play that. And Overwatch is coming back. And there's too many games.
I'm excited for that too.
I could probably just play Darkest Dungeon for the next like 6 months, but that's boring.
Oh, I got Darkest Dungeon, which is like I have had no video games for a while, no new video games, and so I decided to get a video game, and I got it, and I probably played 2 hours, just enough to like the point where I was too tired and I needed to go to sleep, and also to the point where I determined that wow, this game's hard,
Yeah.
and then like since that night. I have been just swamped with work and have not touched it for a week. So it's really frustrating because I really want to play it because I was like, holy shit, this game's awesome. And then I was like, holy shit, this is hard. And now I'm just waiting to dive back in.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a bunch of different strategies, and like the way the game's cadence works is really interesting. Where like characters will get like too good for lower missions. So once your characters get to like level 3 and you try to put them on a level 1 mission, they're like, no, come on.
Yeah.
So you have to have like a big group. It's really interesting. I learned today the trick of like hiring a bunch of level 0s, throwing them into a dungeon with no light, getting a bunch of gold, and then either letting them die or just bailing out of the mission. And then you keep all the treasure, and then they go insane, and you just kick them out and get new adventurers. It's great. They're a renewable asset, just adventurers.
Yeah, I mean that's what like I've been hearing all this time, and it never really dawned on me until I played. And I was like, these, like, because deep down I was like, I mean, everyone's just exaggerating. Like, I can make it work. I can make these people. It's an absolutely expendable resource, and that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the character you play is a bit different from most dungeon crawl games because I think you end up being in this position where you're like, I'm like the weird overlord of these dungeon crawl. Well, like they don't matter. They're kind of nothing. And it's like, yes, I want to explore these dungeons using these implements. They're all expendable. It's really interesting and a very cool take on dungeon crawl stuff.
Yeah.
It's been fun. We've been playing on the Thursday game. We've been playing Torchbearer the last couple of weeks. So there's some thematic crossover there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Disposable is a key word.
Yeah, disposable in a very different kind of suffery kind of way than Old School Adventures. But you know who's not disposable? Burning Wheel characters.
No, it's
You,
like
you can't be rid of them even if you wanted to.
Not easily replaceable either.
Yeah. So I wanted to, before we get into doing like beliefs and stuff, I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I was talking to, I had 2 really interesting conversations at PAX South about Burning Wheel, particularly one with Luke, the designer. We were just talking about the campaign and kind of how it'd been going. And then one with like a random person in the Seattle airport who wasn't like PAX adjacent at all. I just saw someone holding a copy of Burning Wheel and I was like, hey, that's a good game. And we had like an hour-long conversation about it waiting for a plane.
It's so ridiculous. I saw you tweet that.
Yeah, it was just the most random thing because I was like, oh, this person must be coming from PAX. Nope,
Right.
turns out she's English and she lives in America but is going to Vancouver for something. And we just ended up talking and she was telling me some GM horror stories of very, like she was talking about, you know, Ob 10 sorcery rolls and accidentally summoning gods and the kind of things that accumulate over time as you play Burning Wheel.
We're not quite there yet.
No, not
I'm
quite.
thinking like, oh, that sounds fun in our.
Yeah, just wait. Well, because here's the thing, right? Like, even though the premise of the game that we built is like very like low fantasy, it's totally viable for like any of the characters to just make a belief that's like, I will learn the powers of sorcery and just pursue that belief until they get the gifted trait. Like, that's a thing we can just do.
Well, I was trying to think of what my third belief would be for this session, but I think I've
just out of nowhere, just sorcery.
Tell me more.
Yeah. I've had days like that where I wake up and I'm like, I don't really feel like working today. I'm gonna learn how to summon demons to do my bidding.
There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, there's just
magic.
Yeah.
Some people invent the light bulb, other people become sorcerers.
Yeah. Stay up all night watching infomercials. They're like, tired of your job? Don't want to go to work? Demon summoning. And then suddenly, 3 easy payments of $49.99. So, what I was thinking about beforehand was like we've relied on the beliefs so far to be very like kind of character focused, right? Where it's been like, this is what the characters want. But I wanted to take a couple minutes before we started and talk about like as a group, as players, because we're sort of like mid to late in the second kind of arc of the game. What do we want to explore? What do we want to accomplish, right? Because this kind of came out of talking to Luke about how the last time he played Burning Wheel, they forgot to write beliefs. They were like, we'll make some characters, we'll talk about what we want to do, okay, let's play. And then at the end they were like, oh, instead of writing beliefs, we just talked about what we were going to do in the session. So I thought it would be interesting to going into that beliefs writing space, because I know a couple of you have space for new ones. What kind of stuff are we into for today's session?
Just Adam, real quick, and we'll keep this like hush hush, but has Luke confided in you privately that like the way, has he ever seen this, for one thing, and then has he said like, we're playing our characters terribly and like, just face palmed a lot?
Does he hate us?
No, so here's the thing, right? Like, Luke has watched episodes of the show. The whole Burning Wheel team has seen the show.
Oh God.
The only criticisms that ever get leveled are at me for screwing up really like minute rules things, because that's how Luke works. It's not about like broad sweeping, like you're doing this wrong, we're doing a great job. It's like, oh yeah, you were supposed to calculate that obstacle and then divide it in half, not divide it in half and then add the difficulty on top. Stupid. Nitpicking
he's the
is
kind of guy who made this game, right?
Right.
So he's all about the minutia, how all the pieces fit together.
Yeah, totally. Nitpicking is a thing.
That makes sense to hear that. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so that's what it's about. But from a belief perspective, like I think we're doing good and we can keep going the way we are, but it'd be cool to talk about the beliefs reflecting a priority of play. Like what do we want to do as a group? Like especially in this session, if you want to earn some persona, good way to do that is resolving your beliefs.
Okay, I have some strong feelings about things I would like to see happen.
Yeah.
One, I want to watch a fight. I have a belief about watching the fight. I want to watch the fight.
Yeah.
Two, possibly interspersed with one, is I would love to finally have my acid flashback.
Ooh.
Right.
Because I feel like this is where we can like pair the two.
Yeah.
Sets of imagery
For
together.
the first one, I think it's a given you'll be able to watch it, but if it's going to be related to a belief, there's going to be some roles. So you got to get involved in a different way than just I'm standing on the balcony watching a fight.
And this is what I was thinking is that it would like
somehow
I would engage with this mechanically as well. We'll see how we can work that out.
Yeah. Especially since you've just been, salvaged from your debt by your good friend Basil. I feel like John is going to be looking for an opportunity to get more over your head. So.
Mm-hmm. And also salvaged from my ability to do anything about my own problems, Basil.
Well, so here's the other thing. Like Basil, you seem to be. It seems like you're arranging some kind of like deal. There was some undercurrent of like the politicking going on with John Booker. Instead of you came here so Rooster could kill him, but now it seems like maybe you're organizing some kind of like thing. There's some stuff going on there.
I think so. I think. I probably could have played this up a little bit better last episode, but Basil is really freaked out about this Erasmus stuff. And part of what I don't think he even understands that he's doing this yet necessarily, but the sooner he can make himself necessary for the functioning of Freiburg, the less he has to worry about being discarded and replaced with this year's model of
Yeah, he
Revolution.
didn't want to become irrelevant.
Right. And part of that is that he wanted to make a connection with someone who is actually from the who are actually emerged from the previous working class, and not someone who is from the intellectual like establishment or the kind of like the new intelligentsia. And so I think he wants to milk John Booker as like his way of being legit to the people of Freiburg. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. So I think that's what's going on inside of his head, even if he isn't quite sure that, even if he doesn't know that's what's happening to him right now, or what he's
So
up
I
to.
decided I would develop ties with the mob.
Right.
That's how I connect with the everyman.
I mean, we talked about, like, way back at the beginning about kind of, like, what happens to people who are in war who, like, come back to sort of peacetime, even though there's unrest, you become cops or criminals but, like, you end up in a position where you have to, like, try to find a way to assert your power.
Yeah, I think for him, the way he's thinking about it is like, well, this is better than whoever those fuckers on the island would pick to do this job, right? Like, they're going to give it to their cousin. I'm going to give it to this guy who I only just met, and I'm going to keep him on a short leash too. And the next thing you know, he's holding 12 different short leashes, and that doesn't work.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's the direction I'm interested in going in.
Okay. So I see, like, there's definitely some space there between the political and the personal, where, like, Rooster wants to get rid of this dude because he has a long history of this guy as being a personal oppressor of his, but Basil sees him as an opportunity to actually, like, get a hold of some power, like real power, kind of street level stuff. In Freiburg. So Woodsman and Agnes, for a lot of the last few episodes, y'all have been, and this isn't a criticism, but, like, y'all have been kind of, like, trying to juggle, like, what to do with this, like, unstable Rooster situation, which has been cool. But I also want to see what your characters want for themselves, right? It's good to be able to be like, well, I got to keep an eye on this character, or I got to make sure this character doesn't get in trouble, or I want to, like, get closer to this character. Those are all really good, but having a thing that you can do yourself. So if the other three characters were off doing something, and I asked you, okay, what are you going to do now? You'd be able to look at your beliefs and be like, oh, I got a thing. I got an agenda. So what, I guess that's my question, is sort of like where your character's at in regards to that.
That is a big question. I think, like, with the Woodsman, so the Woodsman, like, is so kind of, like, I think outside the realm of certainly Basil and to a lesser extent the Rooster, in terms of, like, willingness to be involved in this sort of situation at all. And the Woodsman obviously carries, like, all this sort of pent up guilt that we've sort of seen, glimpses of and that sort of thing. And I think ultimately there's something about being here back in Freiburg that is kind of like sort of stifling to the Woodsman compared to the way he was even back in
Grafstad?
Grafstad.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that he wasn't a mess there too, but it was like all of the weight, all of the, like, burden of what transpired is so present in Freiburg. So I think the Woodsman's, like, kind of goals are to find a way to occupy himself that takes him into sort of like a voluntary, exile, whether, like, physical or sort of mental. And so I'm trying to sort of figure out what that would mean in specifics, for sort of, like, the intention to travel or, be assigned in some way to something beyond the politics of the city, without sort of abandoning the group.
Sure. And I think that the idea of, like, I can see a sort of very, like, martyry path for the Woodsman, because he has a lot of, like, guilt and stuff built up around what happened. I'm curious to see, I guess, what would spur him to action, because a lot of that right now is turned inward and sort of passive, and is useful, but it also means that the Woodsman kind of ends up being just, like, dragged along into things. And I want to see the woodsman. I want to be in a position where you can be like, I have a thing that I'm gonna like, I want what like a woodman wants to do.
Yeah.
Like I would even go like you can go kind of either direction, right? Where you could start thinking about like a way to move the woodsman to a place where he comes to terms with what happened, or you can also be like he's gonna more actively self-destruct. And that can be like a direction that we can go to, because I'm seeing it sort of gently moving in one of those directions, but it might be worth exploring what would be like a more aggressive push to like either okay, I got to do something about this, or everything is fucked and I'm just gonna like drink myself into a stupor, or do something drastic.
I think there's also like this one kind of element of all of our lives here is like the curse and the marks that we all bear. So like I think on some level the woodsman's like, how is it that we've all sort of chosen to ignore this like sort of grave sign that follows us everywhere? And so maybe it's like, in that sort of spiraling self-destruction, there's also kind of like, well, a willingness to thrust myself into that sort of quest, to actually start pursuing, what's going on with me and us.
Yeah.
Can I ask a kind of broader question on this topic, actually, which is like, so I'm looking at my beliefs and thinking about what we just talked about and thinking about everybody else's beliefs too. And it feels like we're a little pulled in a couple of different directions. I don't think any of them are bad directions, but I do think that there is a tension between a couple of different, like not types of game necessarily, but like different interests. And I'm curious if there's a mood at the table that could coalesce around maybe less threads or something. So like for me, it's interpersonal stuff with Rooster. It's I want to make sure Rooster's okay is one of my beliefs. It's the stuff with the black robes, which is this whole other thread that I haven't been near in a couple of games now, at least. It's the stuff with Erasmus, which I'm currently rewriting to be about what we just talked about, which is the kind of hyper political stuff. But I actually do miss having like the curse on my belief sheet.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't want to clear anything here, but between the kind of like, there's almost like a fantastic and I mean that like in a genre sense, like a fantastical and investigative angle on the curse stuff that we haven't gotten to in a while. And I miss that quite a bit, but I don't know what the mood of the table is on that. And I don't know that I'm like, oh, we should trade away the underworld stuff. We should trade away the political stuff. I'm just curious what the temperature is.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jess, I imagine you've probably got some thoughts on that, because that's been a thing that's been important to Agnes for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I feel like there's a lot of subplots going on, and they're all like really cool subplots, but it's like, what is our actual goal here? What are we trying to achieve? And for Agnes, it's kind of two things. It's the curse. She wants that information. She wants to understand it. But also in the present time, she's itching to make some positive change to Freiburg, because she's seen as this beacon of the revolution or whatever, and she returns to her hometown and just feels like things are still kind of shitty, like there's homeless people, the people that aren't homeless are being controlled, and I feel like she wants to figure out how to help those people before leaving Freiburg, but definitely the curse is like the big thing for her.
Yeah, for sure. I see like the two kind of like main angles as I see them, because like everybody, and this is why we have three beliefs, right? So you can pursue sort of simultaneously like an interpersonal belief, a belief just for your character, and then kind of an overarching like thematic belief for everybody. There's sort of the political stuff that's going on, which I think you're tied to at the early part of this arc, because everybody came back and you had to like talk to the Duke. There's been some of that stuff. And I foresee that continuing through John Booker and like through that situation. that's primarily kind of about Basil and then the rooster through personality, but it would be cool to see the other two characters kind of get involved in that in some way. But then also the thing that you all have in common is that curse, and the curse is tied to the Black Robes as well, because remember they kind of like venerate the cursed.
Right.
And so there's that, and Erasmus exists between both of those places. And I think also like for the woodsman, there's a bit of that like tension between the old and the new, and like that exists in those spaces. But like I would almost want to say like just for this like the next 3.5 hours or whatever, like we pick a thing we want to explore, and then like this could just be like a space where we'll do a little bit of let Rooster finish up his little kind of side quest, and then we can do some stuff about the curse and the Black Robes and just kind of try to stay like in that space for this session.
That would be great. I would like that a lot.
Because then you can write beliefs about that, and like this is the kind of thing that we can, like it doesn't all like these sorts of like what is the game going to be about today doesn't always have to emerge just like organically. Like it'll vary based on the roles, but we can always sit down and be like, cool. So today we want to like do this thing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it also opens us up to the idea of expanding on the world at large. Like Andrew, I know you and I have talked about before, like making other characters that exist in this world, so that if someone can't make it or whatever, we can still play Burning Wheel, but be like, let's see what's happening in the, archipelago of Jade, and like jump over and like explore the rest of the world another way. So it's our sandbox to play around in, and we can decide what part of it we're gonna focus on. Okay, cool. So with that in mind, I guess let's talk about beliefs. Also, Andrew, I wanted to mention for the flashback thing, you tell me when you want that to happen. I'm not going to be like, it's flashback time. You can just be like, hey man, I'm starting to feel a little dizzy. We can just jump into it. That's totally okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's take a look at everybody's beliefs. And
Andrew, you should make it happen at like the worst time, like in the midst of like engaging with a battle or something.
Some big dramatic roll's about to happen, and Andrew's like, no, my
Hold
turn.
up. Flashback.
Yeah.
Stop everything.
Give me that spotlight. Put it over here.
No, but it's about thematic parallelism, okay, guys? This is my time. It aligns with the...
Yeah, especially do it if it's going to mean you talking by yourself for like an hour with no rolls at all.
It's like cut to a soliloquy by Andrew, right? Like that's what flashback means.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
No, what it'll be is I'll like fish for a roll in my flashback that'll get me the advance I need on a skill to like, succeed.
No rolling during flashbacks.
Well, what's the point then if I can't roll during it?
It's true. The point is to keep it short, is what it's about.
That is the point. No, 3 episode long flashback.
Totally. Yeah, it's really a mini series, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Rooster. AKA,
Forgive me last. I'm rewriting most of my beliefs here.
Yeah, you're gonna. Okay, you want me to do your last? All right. Changing all your beliefs. Okay. Basil, how about you? Let's talk about your beliefs. This is not me calling on each person to like deliver their show and tell. This is like like let's sit down for a second with Basil and talk about Basil's business.
The top one is I still want Rooster to stop living in squalor and to move into Redroot Manor. I'm still gonna push on that maybe a little harder this episode. We'll see. The second one is that these black robes use our names to justify their mindless violence, and our names are all we have, aka my name is my name. I must discover who they are, who organizes them, and who leads, where they organize and who leads.
Okay, so that's good. That's good for a belief that will get you fate forever, and you won't get persona on until you've crossed off all 3 of those things. Why don't start with one of them, right?
Okay,
start with something you can do today, and be like, I want
to know who leads them. That's the thing that I think is most important for Basil, who thinks about history as constructed by great men still, because he's that sort of bad person still. Okay. And then the new one is that neither Erasmus's new intelligentsia nor the squabbling politicians of the island will lift the average resident of Freiburg. And then something about how I must do that myself. I must be the person who stands in for the lowborn and the workers, which is like his first step towards like, I should be in power it should be me because I can represent them and I should build those alliances. I haven't figured out what the end of that looks like yet because the phrasing will color what that, not just color it, but will direct Basil in terms of like, is he looking to build alliances with the working class or is he looking to outmaneuver political opponents? So I'm going to try to figure that out over the next 20 minutes or so.
Sure. Yeah. Something that you can act on, right? Because I feel like for as far as Basil has gone, the like fate generating part of the belief, the like,
Yes.
I have you've got a really solid idea of what Basil thinks or feels, and then it's connecting concrete actions to those things. So you can
like, how does he put those into action, and like what does finalizing it look like? That's the bit that's tough for him.
Which is kind of how like actual human beings work most of the time. Where you're like, yep, I know what I want and think and believe, but what the fuck am I gonna do about it?
Yeah. All right, I'll think about it.
Okay, cool.
Do you want to do the other stuff too, or just beliefs for now?
Yeah, let's go through. I don't imagine much has changed.
Nothing has changed. So, whenever I have a moment free, review the writings of my mentor, the philosopher Gertrude.
Okay. Now, is that still something that
you know what? That's going to change.
I was gonna say that feels like Basil's anchored in the past.
It is. I think it's actually. You're right. Can I position?
You can
change a instinct?
Yeah, you can change your instincts. Because remember, like your characters don't just have like a dozen things that are true about them. No. These are just the ones we see right up front.
Right. All right. So I think I'm going to rework that to being about working on his own branch of political and philosophical thought. Right. Like it's going to be like whenever I have a moment free, work on synthesizing the something about maybe what Erasmus has with the true reality of how dirty things are in Freiburg right now, or something like that, which will still be like, oh, keep working on my philosophy skill, but it shouldn't be about Gertrude anymore. There is a break he is making from. It's like, well, what I learned from Gertrude is not enough anymore. The world is changing.
It's time to really like hammer down and start the school of Basilism.
Right, whatever that is, yeah. And then still never let a friend walk into danger alone. Still always fight dirty. That worked out for me last time. And then haunted, muttering, cynical, political, contemptuous, cowardly, your lordship, and mark of privilege.
Awesome. I'm into it. Okay, cool. All right. Agnes, do you want to take a look at your beliefs?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, Agnes wants to read.
Yeah, word.
She hasn't curled up with the book for a long time.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously that ties into wanting more information about the curse.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, Agnes could easily just like walk around town and ask people about it. But Agnes doesn't like talking to people. So
I'm identifying with Agnes so much right now.
Yeah, she's far more likely to like search for some sort of text that will help her figure it out than like ask for help. So I think I'm changing my first belief to I will find a text that will lead me closer to understanding the curse.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about actioning that one in a way that. Like, so how, where will Agnes go, right? Because you'll notice the way that a lot of these beliefs that get resolved tend to be is like I want to better understand the curse, so I will find a text by visiting the Grand Library. Like that's the thing you could just say, like there's a big library, I'm gonna go there and find a text, and we can take some time. You can go there. I'm gonna put some obstacles in your way and challenge you, but that would be the thing. Like I'm not gonna just be like, yeah, cool, you go to the library, you just get your library card, they give you a book about the curse, boom, done. Because then
they give you a book about the curse.
They're just like, hey, what's up? You're one of those cursed people. Here you go. It's a pamphlet that says, so you've been cursed.
So you think you can curse?
Exactly. So
okay, is there a Grand Library?
I mean, sure, right? Like I'm not. I have like I can be like, no, that doesn't make sense, or we could all be like, okay, that doesn't make sense. But this is like a very literary and literate culture, right? Like we've talked about that.
Yeah, so, everyone's like scholars. Right?
Yeah, it's probable that if any place didn't get put to the torch during the Revolution, it'd be the library, right?
Ooh, would my school still be around?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it depends, right? Like,
university or whatever.
Yeah, your student life path was like a generic, like just learning stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Freiburg University It would have been called
that sounds cool.
It would have been called like the Hall of the Holy Empress or whatever. But yeah, they've definitely changed it to Freiburg University. The old fighting revolutionaries. Yeah, so you could say I want to better understand the curse, so I will visit my old school in hopes to find a book. Something like that, because then you've got like, why is your character doing this, and you got like, what are you gonna do? And hopefully that's a thing you can drag another character along with you on. I like it.
Sweet. All right.
Cool.
I will find a text that will lead me closer to understanding the curse. I will visit my old school to seek answers.
Okay.
My words fall flat. I will allow my companions to do the talking for me.
Okay, so this one I felt a little bit like could be an instinct, like always allow someone else to do the talking for me, right? So what is this?
Mm-hmm.
What is like because it's a belief, right? So like my words fall flat. That to me is the more important of the two. Like you'll never get persona for this unless like you can't really resolve this belief.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, like you can hang on to it for a really long time and then try to make like a break for a deeds point by making an impassioned speech in front of a bunch of people, but I don't see Agnes as being quite there yet. Or if even that's the way it's going to go. Like this would be a fine instinct if you want to move it down there, if you have an instinct that you're not really into. Or we could talk about like why does Agnes think that, or like why do you think like your companions aren't all that good at talking, right? Like Basil is.
No,
Basil
not really.
is, but like if this belief were I can't express myself as well as Basil can, I should defer to him in matters of human interaction, right? Like that's a belief. It's a very wrong-headed belief, but it's useful.
That's kind of what it is, though. Like she's afraid to speak up because she doesn't know what to say, and she just feels
that like just the way you described it there is so much more evocative of the character, right? Like it's not so much that she doesn't think she can talk; it's just she doesn't know what words to use, right? She doesn't feel like she has the tools for those things.
Yeah,
and it's definitely not just your companions. It seems to me like Basil's the talker, right? So.
Pretty much.
Because if you were alone with the rooster and someone was like, "Hey, what are you two doing here?" You wouldn't look at the rooster and be like, "No, please explain."
Yeah,
you could, but
well,
then
I mean, I don't know. I might.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that makes sense to me. Like passing the spotlight to Basil if someone tries to confront me for information.
What was that sound about, Basil?
I want. I don't know. It's a lot of. It's like it's more like my GM sense is kicking in more than me as Basil. Like it's just like for whatever reason I kind of want that to then turn back around on Agnes and be about Agnes confronting that in some way. But that's not necessarily a truth.
That's how you earn deeds points, right? Because the arc of a belief is pursuit gets you fate. Resolution gets you persona, but dramatic struggle against your beliefs and turning them around gets you a deeds point, which we haven't really seen yet, right? Like we haven't seen. This would be like the woodsman, tearfully admitting their like desperate need for another character to be around, right? This would be the flipping over of a belief in some dramatic way. This would be Basil turning into the like aristocratic overlord, right? Enslaving the rooster. Like these are big moments. Things that sort of flip in a really intense way. So you can certainly angle for that. We've seen a lot of Agnes kind of deferring, but also being like the practical one, right? Like getting shit done quietly in the background. So I'm curious to see beliefs that explore what Agnes is both feeling about herself and about you as a player, Jess, your kind of hopes for her in the future, or like where you want to angle her at.
Yeah. That's a tough question.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I mean, these are sort of meant to be, and you can always just like drop a belief and in the moment be like, oh, of course I believe that. Like this is a time for a belief, right?
So you're saying that you can write a belief with the intention of actually playing against that belief?
Yeah, as long as you're willing to do it in like a big dramatic way, that's how you get deeds points. Like you really have to, and you wouldn't do it in one session. You wouldn't be like, write a belief that's like, I'm scared of people with swords, and be like, hey, guy with a sword, I'm gonna go pick a fight with him. Bam, deeds point. It's more like you build up to it, right? You say, like, in one session, I have no right to speak in public. I haven't the words for it. I'll defer to Basil in this situation. And then another session you might be like, depending on what happens, you play off that belief a little bit. You're like, maybe I have something to say. I'll speak to Basil in private about this. And then another one could be like, no one around here understands me. I have to use my own words. And then you finally get to a point where it's Agnes up on the soapbox, and you're hitting your like rabble rouser, and you're trying to get rid of woman of few words, and you're hitting that belief where you're like, nope, I don't believe this anymore. This isn't true. And it's not just shedding the belief, but it's actively combating it, like fighting it in a serious way.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I mean, I would like Agnes to have more of a voice.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's fun to play. Excuse me. I'm so congested. I apologize. It's fun to play a character that shies away from taking action and like it tries to get her companions to do it for her, or just like totally backs out of it. But I think it would be cool for Agnes to have her own voice and actually be able to express herself.
I agree. Yeah.
So, especially because she's so interested in, you know, making this revolution work, making the people happy. Can't do that if you're silent. So,
agreed.
That makes sense.
Agreed. Well, and I see a lot of sort of trepidation in, and it's interesting. I like being able to sit down and kind of take this time with each character and kind of like go over them again. Like I see a lot of trepidation in Agnes's traits too, right? And there's a little bit of like combat there because she's pragmatic and she's a woman of few words, but she's also a rabble rouser. But she's a perfectionist, right? And being a perfectionist means you have to know the perfect thing to say before you say it, right? Agnes is not a spontaneous person, right? Like
exactly.
But it's interesting because if you look at your traits compared to the way that she's acted in situations of duress, she doesn't hesitate. It's not about hesitation. It's just about making those hard choices and making sure you're doing the right thing. And sometimes it's like she just knows, right? So in terms of like this belief particularly, thinking about a way to phrase it such that you can work towards changing it every session, because basically as long as you roll on it or it comes up during the session, then you're able to be like, okay, cool. So this particular belief, we're going to hit it with a roll this time and then we'll move on, right? And then next time we'll do something different. And as long as you're getting some rolls in as related to it, you're going to get persona for resolving it, and you're going to get fate towards working towards it, even if you don't get that persona in a given session.
Yeah.
And then you get those sweet, sweet deeds points, and that's how you get massive dice pools.
Well, is it cool if I just to get things moving along, if I roll with 2 beliefs for tonight?
Yeah,
and then come back.
And if you like one pops in your head, you can feel free to fill that slot.
Okay. So I'll drop that one for now and come back to it.
Good.
And then my other belief was I have sworn to defend my companions, and I will be their fist if necessary.
Okay. Now I like this one, and I'm interested to see, because we've seen a little of that happen, but we've also seen Agnes choose not to do that, right? Like you kind of left your former mentor to the wolves. And also, like, both Basil and the Rooster have, like, gotten in fights that you've not needed to or chosen to protect them during, right? And you're like, they're fighting now. Basil's fighting dirty, and Rooster's already stabbing someone, so I'll just watch.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the, like, I've sworn to defend them part. Like, let's maybe look at... And this is just my thought. Like you can feel free to tell me you're not interested in it, but like the phrasing here is like implies you've sworn to somebody else to defend them. Like who did you swear to? Like who is it to yourself?
I guess. Yeah. It's
right.
It's a personal thing where like if I can see that they're in duress, if they're in direct harm, then I will not even think about jumping in.
Okay. So maybe think about rewriting this one as like, because like you've sworn to defend them, that's cool, and you'll fight for them, and that's cool too. But let's maybe look at like how is that belief, because you've had that belief for a while. How has it changed based on seeing them be kind of violent on their own? Like, is there a way that like do you still feel that way? Did you swear that oath to yourself and still feel like you still feel good about it? Is it a valid thing for Agnes to keep doing and believing?
I think it is. I mean, she's sort of seen that they can, for the most part, handle themselves.
Yeah.
But there are definitely occasions where they get into some crazy shit and, could absolutely need her help, and she wants to offer that. So I feel like it's still
Okay.
It's still something she strongly believes.
Cool.
It's a protection thing, It's,
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'll jump into this bar brawl with them. It's like, if
Right,
they're about to be injured.
So in situations where you've chosen not to fight for them, then. Okay, so is this? I guess my question is this a known thing? Like, does Basil and the Rooster and the Woodsman know that you do this? Because like, I will be their fist if necessary. So if Rooster came to you and was like, hey, "Go beat somebody up for me," would you do it?
It's not a spoken thing, and no, unless he was gonna like die.
Sure. Okay.
So I don't know.
That face, Andrew. I'm gonna die. I'm dying if you don't beat this guy up for me.
Help me! I'm
Please.
dying.
Help.
So I don't know if they actually like understand my position or not. But for Agnes, it's if any member of the Scooby Gang is in mortal danger,
Right.
she's there.
I obviously just need to put them in ever more excessive mortal danger and see what.
Clearly,
I just keep looking at you and be like, "How about now? How about now?
I don't know.
What about now?" All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a quick one over for your instincts. How are you feeling
Sure.
about those?
I still like these.
Okay.
I like my new one, especially the naive one.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too.
Fun. So when resting, I practice my boxing. I strive for perfection and never work quickly, which has yet to cause me trouble, but I'm sure it will.
Keep this one in mind. I was reading Burning Wheel on the plane back from PAX South, and I was reminded that there are rules for working slowly.
Mm-hmm.
They give you extra dice. So to get in trouble or get yourself in trouble with this one, like basically you should, every time that Agnes has to do anything, think about like, can I do this more slowly than usual? And if so, let me know, because you'll get extra dice. It gives you advantage dice.
Yeah, I need to keep that one in mind.
Yeah.
And then I am naive.
Yeah.
And I always assume that strangers are trustworthy.
Yes, and that went pretty great for you last time with Ferdinand. So
yeah,
you get an extra die if you want to call on Ferdinand the Friendly anytime you want.
Yeah.
What was his? Oh, he was a silversmith. That's right.
Yes.
Yep, the White Smith.
Yeah.
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand, I love that dude. He was great.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Woodsman, let's take a walk through the garden of your beliefs. How are you feeling about the beliefs as they stand?
Okay, I'm not feeling very good about them. At least not the first two. I think the rooster related one is still kind of stands. At least there's like an inkling of a good path there. But the more I look at these, the first two are really kind of just instincts. And when you were talking to Jess, that kind of dawned on me. I'm not sure why that took so long, but I think they kind of need to go. And I'm really struggling not to write like a big novel.
Yeah, the advice I would give you for thinking up new beliefs, because it's hard, right? Because you want to be like specific enough that you're accomplishing the goal, but broad enough that you can keep it in your head and how it works for your character.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I generally write beliefs, or the kind of way that I like generally see them kind of effectively written, is in like the 2-part model. Like, I believe or think this, I'm gonna do this about it. That way you can keep the motivation part and rotate out the goal. So like for this first one about betraying the ruler was a personal betrayer, you could boil that down to killing the Empress was a mistake, or helping them kill the Empress was a mistake, or the part of it that feels like a betrayal to you. Maybe it's not the Empress, toppling the government. Maybe it's like, it depends on whether it's personal or structural, right? Or like, I was given a place at court I didn't deserve, but the betrayal is there, right? It's about that. And then think about like what is how does that drive your play of the Woodsman? Like, what roles can you make in regards to that. You know, what does it do to drive your character in a particular direction?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this first one, I think, has been good for you, but like you said, it's pretty much the same as your first instinct, right? Like, you've got this stranger suspicion, keeping yourself out of danger. I think that's a very strong inclination for the woodsman, like for the way you play the woodsman.
Mm-hmm.
But you could probably boil some of that stuff down, right? You could just have one instinct about being like, never trust a stranger, right? And that covers your guard not being down around them, not becoming close to someone. Like, there's some degree of that there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think about like how you can kind of boil some of that down, which will give you space for beliefs more in line with like actually doing stuff, finding a drive for woodsmen during the game.
Yeah. I've been like trying to investigate my motivations here, and I think, you know, like we were saying earlier, the woodsman obviously has, or I guess maybe that was kind of outside of the game. I personally would like to explore the sort of the curse.
Mm-hmm.
I think we agreed we're kind of gonna, you know, take a bit of a turn in that direction today. But I think when it comes to the woodsman, I think maybe there's some sort of realization that the wallowing in, like, you know, self-pity and sort of the weight of his own sins is maybe like his own sins are like tied to the curse of these companions, and like so I can say something like I believe you know, I just like, it's so hard, like the
It's one of those things where I think that when people look at a Burning Wheel character sheet, they're like, oh, it's just like 6 lines in the sheet. But like, this is the whole character. Like, beliefs, instincts, and traits are what everything else comes from. So it's fine that it takes time, and like, you know, it's a thing you're constantly reanalyzing, because, you know, you're playing D&D, you're not like, but what does it mean to have 6 strength? What does 6 strength mean?
Yeah.
But in this, you're like, beliefs. It's how I earn points. It's how the game rolls. It's like the core thing in the whole game. So, I mean, I think we've seen the like kind of introverted, self-destructive like side of the woodsman, and it's really compelling. But we've also seen, and the things that I find the most interesting about the woodsman are the parts where we've seen like what's outside of that, and the threads that kind of lead in or out of that kind of little black hole that the woodsman has surrounding him. You know, like the rooster having this, I love the idea of this like crude ways with an air of purpose. I think there's a reason that's really compelling, because it gives you something to do, to support Rooster in a way that maybe the woodsman doesn't even understand why, or like, you're like, this, your rational brain's like, this is insane, but I'm gonna like keep helping you because maybe, you know, maybe this will, it's like a weird fringe philosophy, right? Like, just
keep shaking the tree and something will fall out of it.
Something will fall out, yeah. And you may realize you've just completely, like, this is totally the wrong path, and you wake up covered in blood and, you know, whatever, but at least you will have come to a place. I really like the idea of the woodsman exploring that curse in a personal way, as a contrast to Agnes. Because for Agnes, I think the curse feels very academic, right? You're like, well, we're cursed. Weird. Let's go look it up. Or like, she seems like the kind of person who would be like, the doctor's like, you have some kind of like weird disease. And she's like, that's so interesting. And just goes to the library and like looks it up. Whereas the woodsman, the curse feels like personal, like you're bearing it in a very like emotional way.
I think like almost in a selfish way, the woodsman feels that the like burden of the curse is more meant for him than even these companions who are also obviously affected and like afflicted by it.
Right.
And
yeah.
So it's kind of like a very personal motivation to, you know, seek it out. And I think maybe I've developed some kind of frustration with the group's kind of lackadaisical, like sort of just kind of
the curse doesn't have the same urgency for everyone else.
Yeah. They're like, we're cursed,
right?
and you're like,
this is about me, guys. We need to get to this.
And I think on top of that, like the curse is for Basil. It seems like it's a social stratifier, right? Where he's like, I'm part of like a special class. And for Agnes, it's an academic thing. For the rooster, it's just one more brand, right? One more mark in a long line of marks. It's a scar. But for the woodsman, it's like an obvious physical like reminder of this personal deep like guilt and shame for the thing that he did. Right? The curse is like a real personal symbol. Now I guess my question is like what, and maybe you don't know, maybe the woodsman doesn't know and you have some idea, but like does he want absolution for this? Is it about removing the curse so that he can feel like, well, if the gods forgive me, then I must be forgiven? Or is it like
So
where does
here's
that
the
come
thing.
from?
Here's the thing. Some of the like actual history behind the woodsman situation comes into play here that we haven't actually heard, but I think ultimately he feels that though there's like virtually no possibility of any physical reunion with his family, perhaps the curse is like the only sort of thread of hope that if like I can possibly get to the bottom of that, maybe then I can embark on that like path to redemption.
That sounds to me like there's a belief right there, right? About like if I ever hope to be redeemed, I have to understand this curse. And then what'll be the first thing you'll do about that? Right? Like, because I think that's great. Like, I love the idea of the mark of the wheel, as being like an externalized thing for the woodsman, representing this very internal, kind of very hidden shame and guilt that he has over.
Yeah.
Over
So
this,
I think
this
I guess the more
step.
specific goal then that follows from that is probably like, this, what are they called? The black robes or something?
Yeah. The black robes.
Like they are sort of the first kind of wake up call to like, okay, perhaps this is like the jump off point for like actually accomplishing some kind of, progress in this situation.
Yeah.
So I should like follow them, or I should, seek out them.
Sure, that's perfect, right? Is like write the opening bit of your belief about like why you're interested in the curse, and then like I'll seek out the black robes in search of answers.
Okay. Well, okay, so I think that'll form one new belief then.
Yeah, I like
I'm not sure about the other.
I mean, the beginning is the perfect start for belief, right? The world is a cold, violent place. Life has little meaning, right? Now, I don't mind risking mine. Requires external action, right? It requires someone to give you the opportunity to risk your life.
Yeah, that's true, and it's so I often just never encounter this belief because I'm never like the instigator.
Yeah, well, and it's an easy belief to get fate out of because all you have to do is just observe the world being cold and violent. But I guess this is where the self-destruction part might come in, where it's like if you want to get kind of nihilistic, you can be, for now, and this could lead the character, just like Jess's character's second belief, this could be the one that leads you down a particular path, where right now it might be like, I will find ways to, like you might be about nihilism now and about kind of like destroying your life, so it's like, so I'll drink to forget it. Right? Like that's a thing. So you could just be like, fuck it, I'm going to go get wasted because life is violent and cold and has no meaning. But you could slowly work towards like either embracing it. Like I can see several paths ahead for the woodsman, one of which is very dark where you just embrace the curse and are like, yep, it's cool. I'm a champion of the black robes. We're just going to go on like, crazy apocalypse spree with them because obviously I'm cursed, right? And if I'm better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, right? But you could also go down a path of like the world is a cold and violent place, life has little meaning, so I must make my own meaning in this world, right? Like I have to do something meaningful to come back from that. So it's I mean I think again like you can start in one place, wander in that direction, and then see how you get led away from there as time goes on.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can leave the action part blank for now, right? Like you can just say the world is a cold, violent place and life has little meaning. That's the beginning of a good belief. That's a great torchbearer or mouse guard belief, but you got to work the action part into it. And it can also be you can remember. And this is the thing. Like we talk a lot about like what does your character want? What do you want? Whatever. It's fun to play someone who doesn't know what they want. So a belief like the world is a cold, violent place and life has little meaning, and I don't know how to fix it. Like that's a belief too,
Yeah.
right? Where you like maybe you go to church, maybe we just see the woodsman trying to figure out what the fuck to do with this world that's obviously falling apart. People are getting sick. The world is like there's not enough food for everybody. The promises of the revolution were false, and everything sucks. Maybe you don't know what to do about it yet, and maybe that's something we can discover and play. Maybe an interaction with the Black Robes will lead you in one way, or maybe like a conversation with Basil will lead you in another. You're allowed to have a character who doesn't know what they want.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to have to for now.
Yeah.
So I'll get that first belief together and then, use this other prompt as, food for thought while I figure out what the action is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's an interesting balance in playing Burning Wheel particularly because it's so about the characters and about their growth. You kind of have to have two things going on at once. You have to have like an idea of where you think the character will go, but a flexibility around how to change that as you move through the world. Because like as we've seen, a couple of rolls made in a bad way can lead you into a totally different place than you might have expected. But I try to use the beliefs to guide where that stuff goes, right? So like if a failed roll that could have led you to investigate the Black Robes, if everyone has a belief about investigating the curse and the Black Robes, I'm not going to be like, cool, they just disappear. You can't investigate them for a while. Let's go do this other thing. The more fragmented the beliefs are, the more I have to sort of pick and choose them. But as we kind of hone in on like a series of beliefs or a theme to aim at, it makes it easier for me to introduce twists that are like, well, the Black Robes are around, but maybe not available in an easy way, or maybe not available in the way that seems like, safe for you, and we'll try it another way. So as far as your instincts go, the first one we talked a little bit about working in some of the not becoming close to anyone, not trusting strangers. These can be much simpler than your beliefs, right? They can just be like, like if this, then that, never this, always this, whatever. So like never let my guard down around strangers. That's a belief, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to be as broad or as kind of like thought out as a belief.
Yeah, I'm like justifying all of the instincts with motivations.
Yeah, but it's the opposite of beliefs. You don't have to. You can just be like, I do. Hell, the characters most of the time don't know why they do the things that are instinctive to them, right?
Yep.
This is where stuff like when I'm in danger, draw a weapon, and you're like, why do I have a knife in my hand? Oh shit, adrenaline, right? Or like when I'm nervous, drink. Like that's an instinct too, They say things about the character that the character themselves might not know.
Yeah.
For the second instinct, just pick a skill. Like just pick a skill that you practice, and like the rooster and like Basil, you'll be able to make note of like, okay, you had 6 hours of downtime tonight, and you practiced whatever. And this can just be observation. Like I walk the streets, making note of things. Yeah, just say like, I don't sleep well at night, so I wander and hone this skill. And this is where you can refer to like a specific skill your character has.
Yeah. Okay.
And then your third instinct is, I think, pretty solid. On the first hint of danger, conceal myself. You don't even have to say as best I can or even with my party. Just say, up on the first hint of danger, conceal myself. Because then there'll be lots of times where it's better not to hide, and you have, right? Especially if somebody else gets in trouble and they need your help. That's when you want to be like, nope, you can't find me. I'm hiding behind a potted plant. You don't know where I am.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Are you ready, Rooster? Are you prepared?
More or less.
Okay, let's talk about yours.
So I still want to hold on to my belief about Princess.
Okay.
And how I may have like misjudged her and want to like see her fighting to get a sense of who she really is.
Can we change misjudge into something more specific? Like in what way did you misjudge her? Like Princess is not the fool I thought she was. Princess is might not be the asshole I thought she was. Like in what way did you misjudge her?
Oh well, yeah, like Rooster thinks she's an asshole for sure.
Sure. Okay. So maybe something more along those lines, because misjudge can mean a lot of things.
Yes.
And I'm curious about what Rooster thinks of her before the fight.
Yeah, he totally thinks she's just like awful to him, like mean or like profiteering or these kinds of things. So yeah, he doesn't view her as someone that he can like be friends with or ask favors from or like establish any kind of rapport with. Mm-hmm. He basically assumes that they're like that they are an opponent of his. So yeah.
Okay.
And I'll write that more nicely
Sure.
in a minute here. But my other belief that I have cemented is Basil has bought me a chance to get clean, and I shouldn't waste that. I should find something better to fill the gap.
Okay. So describe the gap a little bit more for me. So it's your Basil's bought you a chance to get clean. Obviously, I'm gonna try and make you like fall back into that hole. That's my job, right? Is to challenge you and be like, oh yeah, but what if you could gamble on this? How about this stuff? What about these? What about the score of the year? Right? Like that's my job. Let's talk a little bit about like you're gonna search for something better. Are you looking to like move the rooster into finding something else to be addicted to instead of gambling? Like we're looking to find religion.
Yeah, like he wants to find a new hobby instead of gambling, like something better to do with his time.
Yeah, you should hang out with the woodsman. Drink more.
Ugh. In my mind, the whole like reason that he took to gambling was just that like the life that he was leading was not like didn't give him enough chances to be violent and like do all these other things that he depended on as these like horrible outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just like kind of started spiraling in on himself.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's gonna look for something else to do, be that like I'm my other belief I want to write is something about pursuing the black robes or something like that. So it could be that he just gets really driven on that kind of stuff, or that he just like finds a hobby or something.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an invitation for Agnes or Basil or the woodsman to like get you obsessed with something else instead.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
And I have some. If like no one has any immediate thoughts on how to do that, I can push that in a
Yeah, I mean, I see some persuade tests or whatever in the future to be like, listen, Rooster, I need your help on this. Like, we got to go to the library and search out this book or whatever, right?
I'm like, fucking books.
It seems to me, and I think this happened to a character. I think Jana's character was like this in the last Burning Wheel game we played. Like, there's always somebody who's trying to learn how to read. There's always like one character who's like, I don't know how to read. I'm gonna figure that out.
I think I'm gonna just irreverently never learn to read, though.
Yeah.
I think that is my plan. Just embrace it.
That's a belief. That's a belief, right? Learning is for dummies, and I will never figure out how to read. Yep. No phonics for you.
But yeah, for my last belief, I want to write something to do with like the curse and the black robes, but I just can't think of a good like actionable concrete thing.
Okay, well we'll try to have a scene, and again, this is kind of a shout out for the other, like I can do it with an NPC, but I think it'll be more impactful if one of the other players try to get Rooster on board with your like curse investigation.
And then I will immediately form a belief about it with a goal oriented around it, and I'll totally want to do it together for something.
Yeah.
This is the exchange.
The Rooster's in a very pliable space right now.
Yeah, totally. Because I think he's been very much a character who's just about being like, what?
Totally.
Awash in a sea of too many options.
He's a man of his instincts.
Well, and that too.
Yeah. Okay. And then speaking of which, I really like your first instinct, even though I've been trying to get you on it. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you today. I'm gonna get you to do something stupid because of that instinct. You just wait.
Well, the second part is the most reliable one.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But then so I have take any wager, answer any challenge. When someone tries to touch me or connect emotionally, push them away. And when there is downtime, hone my fighting skills.
Cool. So for anyone who has, and I think most of you do, and I'm sure you're not keeping track of it, because you're not asking me how much downtime there is. Get on that, because that's how you get tests for free. So be like, so how long until this mission? How many days has it been? Right. How many hours was I at home?
How much downtime have we had since?
Yeah, hasn't
no,
like
you cannot don't try to ask me to backdate that shit.
No, but I guess what
we did it with the Graustadt stuff.
Right, I guess what he's getting at is it hasn't felt like there's been any downtime since we've been back. But
for some of you, there are tests you can get in a matter of hours, right? Like it depends on the skill. There's a page in the book somewhere, which I will look up. But there's a page that tells you what kinds of tests and how long they take to get them. So keep that in mind, like how many hours it takes to earn a sword test or whatever. Because that'll be a way you can improve your skills without.
All right. Well, I'll make a PowerPoint presentation for the next session that outlines how much time I think we have had.
Right.
And how many tests.
Well, I mean, really, what you need to do is just have someone be grievously injured again and be like, "Cool, 6 months pass."
Yeah, Woodsman, get on it.
Get halberted again. You need more to add to ulcer or whatever.
You
Right?
need a little halberd in your life.
I've
trust
been playing Darkest Dungeon. I got loads of horrible things that I can give you as traits now.
Oh gosh.
You have the ague. Cool. All right. So you have your beliefs, you have your instincts, and I think I can see some ways that your traits play into those, like gambling addict and take any wager, and you know, some of these masterless should be interesting.
Yeah, and the whole like gambling addiction thing is very much the kind of stuff where I wanted to play against it, but have that be like a struggle that the character is going through.
Yeah, totally. I'm into it. All right, cool. Well, I feel like that was good. That was a good like because we haven't really like sat down and like talked about kind of like where the characters are at and stuff, and I feel like we got some good direction for this this session. So let's take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll pick up with the remainder of the little fight scene that we were in before, and then we can wander off in a new direction and see what kind of magic shit there is out there to investigate. Sounds good?
Sweet.
Cool. All right. Stick around. More Burning Wheel after this.